So there you see Ken Shamrock on the Jumbotron. He's made his way to the ring. They've already got some laser effects on the ring for the actual Shamrock logo, which I think is fun.
God, he just looks like he would just hurt the hell out of you. I mean, he is
like a cartoon
jacked.
figure. Yeah.
And he's got that fighter's face. Like yeah. He's dangerous just to look at.
We've got Ken Shamrock here in the ring. And of course, we know that this crowd is feeling like they didn't get the biggest WrestleMania card. This is the 5th match on the show. And I love these backstage looks on the way to the ring. And here he comes. How about this open? The Austin 316 glass shatters, and there he comes. Steve Austin, our heel. He's coming out first because at this point, he's not the biggest star in the world, but he will be a year from now. But at this point, Bret Hart's still the bigger star. He comes out last. And of course, he's coming into this match as a heel. He's leaving as a babyface. Is there a famous double turn like this in WCW history that you can remember, Eric, where you thought one guy was a babyface and he turns heel, and you thought one guy was a heel and he turns babyface, and it all happens in the same segment?
I'm sure some of our matches felt that way, but they were never designed to be that way. Finishes were always kind of the Achilles heel of WCW. So I'm sure there was some confusing matches and finishes that perhaps people believe that was the intended outcome, or they were just confused watching what they were watching based on the finish. But I don't think so, man. I'm not that guy. I am not the wrestling trivia guy. You should know that by now. Anybody that listens to me knows I barely remember what happened a week ago, more or less what happened in another organization 30 years ago. So no, I don't know. I don't know if it ever happened in WCW. I don't remember it happening here. It's interesting. I would have loved to hear the discussion going into the finish of this, or the creative leading up to it, because it's unique and it's complicated and requires a lot of nuance and detail to the story, and by the talent.
As a reminder, this is the first time, and I believe the only time in the monthly pay-per-view era, that WCW beat WrestleMania. This is the same month and calendar year where Uncensored for WCW happened the same month as WrestleMania. But unlike in 95 or 96, we've got the NWO's involvement for Uncensored in 1997. So not only do we have the NWO, we've also got, at the time, the media darling, the lightning rod of controversy, Dennis Rodman. He's there. So you actually do better pay-per-views and get much more attention for Uncensored even than they do for WrestleMania. And boy, do we have a hot start here. Austin wasting no time, and immediately we've got a brawl. And that's kind of the story they've been telling here, Eric. We're not going to have a technical match. We hate each other. We're brawling anywhere and everywhere. When we see each other, we're fighting immediately on sight. And that's the reason I thought it was so interesting that they went with a submission match. Of course, we found out later that that was really them trying to just make a big deal of Ken Shamrock, and these guys have to figure it out. Of course, Stone Cold does not have a submission finisher. He's got the stunner. We all know that Bret Hart is looking for the sharpshooter. But that's where we are, and this is going to be a classic.
Yeah, there's some great punches being thrown by both of these guys. It's funny with all of the crazy stuff that people are capable of doing now, and we become almost numb to the incredible degree of athleticism that we see in professional wrestling today. But there's still something like just a good, solid working punch. It looks so believable. It allows you to believe that these guys are really beating the shit out of each other, as opposed to some of the stuff that we're getting kind of overwhelmed with today. Just basic fundamental wrestling, man. It works.
Captain Lou and Tony Atlas sitting ringside there.
I just saw Tony Atlas about 2 weeks ago. He's an interesting cat, man. Always up, always excited. I guess I remember it now, but I've had forgotten. He's a pretty good artist. And I ran into him and he gave me a picture that he drew of all of the people that are going to be on a convention that he's going to be at. And it was really, really well done. And he was so proud of it. He told me it was his therapy, keeps him out of the alcohol and the drugs. So good for you, brother.
Brawling through the crowd here, also in the crowd that day is a very young Colt Cabana, I believe. Of course, this is at the
What was he, 12, 10?
Yeah, he's in the crowd. Yeah, pumped up,
Wow,
man.
that's awesome. That's awesome. And that's another thing, I don't know that I shouldn't say we won't see this ever again, or we don't even see it now, but taking the action into the crowd in today's environment, I don't think you'll see things like this very often. And when you do, the security will be such that it won't look quite the same. Just the risk and look at that NWO shirt in there early on. I love it. Yeah, just the risk and the exposure legally of taking action into the crowd is probably why you won't see it again, or at least very often. But it is pretty cool, man. Once you involve the crowd and they realize they're part of the show, man, it lights them up.
Yeah, I mean, you do see that these days, but you're right. It's usually moving with a circle of security. I mean, at this point, it feels like we've got one orange jacket well behind Ken Shamrock. Okay, there's the rest of everybody. But boy, you want to talk about the security guys just kind of hanging around. Yeah, these days they're keeping a perimeter around the performers.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
feels very ECW in '97, doesn't it?
It's got that feel, right?
Yeah,
it does have that vibe. And I think that was the magic, with Heyman and ECW. You can talk about the quality of the matches and the violence and, lack of production, blah, 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 blah. You can talk about a lot of things and be honest and be accurate when criticizing ECW, or at least just acknowledging what they were. But the magic wasn't in the production values. It wasn't in the hocus pocus of television technique. It was just engaging the crowd. It looked and felt like a party, kind of a violent party, but a party nonetheless. I've been to parties like that, like when I was in high school, freshman in college. I saw some parties that ended up looking like an ECW event, and it's kind of what made them special.
a lot of attitude here from Steve Austin with the double birds.
He's just nonstop, isn't he, Steve? I mean,
Yes.
he was just full go. Any idea what the attendance was for this event, Conrad?
Yeah, I can get that for you.
Just kind of curious. It looks good, but what a difference again, production values, lighting, all the things now that make, a WWE PLE so spectacular in terms of its production. And here we're still pretty basic. It kind of looks like it could be a Monday Night Raw with a big crowd. Nothing really fancy. The entrance wasn't really special. Lighting isn't really special. It looks like a really well-attended Monday Night Raw, as opposed to what we see now, which looks like the Super Bowl meets Disney on ice. It's pretty crazy.
18,197 fans.
That's kind of a big house.
Paying a total of $837,150. It did a 0.77 buy rate, which I think is around 237,000 buys on pay-per-view.
Wow. This is an excellent match, though. If you love, like I do, just good, fundamental, believable wrestling, this is, I get it. I get why they nominated this. This is really excellent work by both guys.
And they're about to get busy, and you're going to know what I'm talking about. As a reminder, this is technically the 5th match on the pay-per-view, but 6th match on the night. We had the show open with Billy Gunn, who I think at that point was Rockabilly, taking on Flash Funk. Then we had the Headbangers with Furnace and LaFawn, the Godwins, and the new Blackjacks. The Headbangers get the win. That's how we start the pay-per-view, a Headbangers match with the Godwins. Then we've got Rocky Maivia and the Sultan. They're eventually going to be known as The Rock and Rikishi, but neither one of these characters are over for the Intercontinental title match on 3rd. Then we've got Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Goldust, and maybe Hunter Hearst Helmsley's worst WrestleMania match, and that includes his 30-second squash with the Ultimate Warrior. And then we've got the Owen Hart British Bulldog tag team match against Mankind and Vader. It's an all-heel affair that ends in a double countout that goes nowhere. And then there's this match. To follow this will be the Chicago Street Fight, which was getting co-main event billing locally, which is hard to believe. It's Ahmed Johnson and the Legion of Doom taking on the Nation of Domination. And in the main event, probably a much too long affair, 21 minutes and 20 seconds for Psycho Sid to drop the belt to The Undertaker and allegedly poop his pants in the process.
Boy, I'm really glad we pointed that out. I'll be thinking about that all day. What a tough spot to be. Can you imagine crapping your shorts when you're in the ring?
At WrestleMania in the main event.
18,000 people in attendance. Millions watching around the world as you dump a load in your shorts. Great.
Hey, Eric, what we just saw there is a Stone Cold Stunner right in the middle of the match. And normally that would spell the end. But as a reminder, pinfalls don't count. It's a submission match. And so we got a little bit of psychology there. And now you can see Bret really working on the leg.
Well, look at Steve sell that leg. He's not overselling it. That's what makes it so good. And Bret I just love simple, basic wrestling formula. I just love seeing it. It's been so long. It's like hearing a song you haven't heard since you were a kid, and you love that song because it always reminded you of the first day of summer or some other big moment, and you haven't heard it forever. And when you hear that song, it reminds you of just how great that song was. And I feel the same way about this match. I get it now. I get why it is the first match in the Hall of Fame, because this is freaking awesome. This is wrestling to me. I understand there's a whole new audience and different appetite for different things. I get that. I'm not the old guy bitching about wrestling was always better in my time. No, I'm not doing that. I am acknowledging, however, that the psychology in this match and the pacing of this match, it all leads to the believability of it. And I think it's awesome.
Here we go, Eric. Take a closer look at what we're about to see. A lot of magic is about to happen here. Heavy on story. I know some of these things you're not going to be necessarily in favor of, but I think you're going to dig it. Someone spilled a Coke on the folding chair there. And now it's in the ring. Now, as a reminder, I know you weren't watching, but in the fall of the prior year, we saw Steve Austin bring a chair like this and put it around the broken ankle of Brian Pillman, and Steve Austin jumped off the top rope on it to quote unquote re-break it. So that's the storytelling reason behind Bret bringing the chair in and setting it up just like that, because fans knew.
Payback for Brian Pillman.
There you go.
Nice. Little nuanced detail. I like it. That was a chair shot. Well placed. Looked great. Didn't crack anybody's head open. Awesome.
And fans are responding to it, man.
Boom. I love that. That looked good. Looked believable. Bret had his back arched up just enough to take that. And that looked like that chair shot looked like it had some steam on it.
Bret's gotten a lot of praise for the way he would take turnbuckles too. He took that one in the back, but when Bret would run full speed into those turnbuckles, sternum first, is that not one of the damnedest looking spots you saw in wrestling? It was for me.
It is. And again, it's when I say simple, easy for me to say. It is not a complicated maneuver.
Yeah,
better way to say it, but very difficult to make look believable. And I think that's the magic of Bret Hart. You know, that's one of the things that made Bret one of the very best at what he does, is his proficiency at the little details. How many times have you heard people talk about, whether you're in the NFL, you're a baseball player, basketball, it's always the little details that matter. And that's one of the things that made Bret. He was so good at the fundamentals and the little details. Those are the things that stand out. Those are the things that make you believe. Let's put it that way. I don't know if it stands out as much, but it makes you believe.
I mean, check this out. I mean, Stone Cold does not have submissions in his repertoire. So he does a Russian leg sweep
I don't know what he's doing right now. What the hell is that?
I mean, this is probably some sort of jujitsu that somebody's going to tell us. Oh, that's the go-go plata. Okay,
no, that ain't shit. That ain't that ain't shit right there. You ain't telling me anything. I mean, it looks like it was uncomfortable. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think you'll see that anywhere else.
Taz is going to text me and say, brother, that was a 3/4 executed so-and-so.
Oh, Taz, get over yourself, brother. Get over yourself. He's a great guy. I like Taz. I'm just joking with you, Taz. He takes things kind of personally. So
no shit. Thank you for
we
clarifying.
love you, Taz. You are the best of the
We
best.
love orange, but we'll never wear it. You know, I mean, we know that's not allowed. Yeah. So here you see the Boston Crab here. I gotta say, you know, even an elementary move like this, when it's put on properly, most everyone my age threw this on a friend of theirs when they were in grade school. The Boston Crab can hurt, boys and girls. You can get it there,
I mean, that looks like it hurts, doesn't it?
right?
I mean, I wouldn't want, like right now, if somebody did that to me right now, I would be in the emergency room shortly thereafter.
I like the way he's sort of mocking the way you apply the sharpshooter, just like he went to the second rope to do the elbow, but he flipped him off first. I like that Stone Cold seems to be taking a lot of pleasure in doing Brett's own moves to Brett.
Oh, thumb in the eye, just a dirty, heelish thing to do, but it's so effective.
I think Brett's right hand is closed in a very special way. Could be wrong.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah. So watch Brett. He's got his right hand here, getting everything ready. Gonna have some movie magic coming. I've had a wrestler before say this is always sort of par for course. While one guy's getting ready, you got to have another guy run a distraction for the camera and do something big for the crowd. And here we go. Whips him in, and Stone Cold hits his head on the guardrail, and I believe he's been lacerated. He's been busted wide open. Well, maybe not yet, but roundabout now.
Who's the announcer that took the bump?
Hugo, son of a bitch, as I like to say. Hugo Savinovich.
Yeah. Took a pretty good bump for an announcer.
Jerry Lawler, of course, is on the call here with JR. And Steve Austin is bleeding buckets. And I got to tell you, as a kid, this added so much to the match. I know these days people are maybe a little more desensitized to blood, but that was not the case back then. I know these days it's kind of polarizing because the company has at times been, you know, hey, there's a blood ban. No, there's not. Hey, there's a blood ban. No, there's not. But when it adds to the story, and you're going to see how this all plays into this story, I don't hate it. As a rule, is that the way you feel about blood, Eric? That it just needs to make sense?
Well, it needs to make sense, and it can't be excessive. And by that I mean, when you see it almost all the time. Somebody gets cut, and it's always most of the time up around the hairline, and the first thing they do is start wiping it all over themselves and licking it off their fingers, and they go so far to draw attention to it that it becomes obvious it's bullshit and not real. Not that the blood isn't real, but they gig themselves. And it just takes the art out of it. It takes the believability out of it. It's like the more copious amount of blood that you can, expose to the audience, somehow the more intense your match is. And it's the exact opposite. It's the exact opposite because it looks so phony when you draw that much attention to it that even though the blood is real, the incident becomes a joke, in my opinion. There may be some, low level humanoids out there. Nick Bockwinkel, humanoids. That's what I always called fans, humanoids. There might be some low vibrating, vibration fans out there that just, the more blood, the better. But for me, as soon as it becomes over the top because you're trying to draw so much attention to it, I actually think it detracts from the match.
You see Bret Hart now being the aggressor with the chair. And, of course, this started with Bret bringing both the ring bell and the chair into the match. Of course, Steve Austin got to use the chair first, but boy, Bret's using everything at his disposal now, and he's trying to lock him into the sharpshooter. Of course, this is Bret's patented finishing maneuver.
And the other thing I've noticed in this match is Bret's been working on that bad wheel since the bell rang.
Yes.
He a lot of times guys will go, okay, you got a bad leg, I'm going to go after your bad leg as a spot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it makes sense on paper as a spot, but in a match like this, it's part of the psychology, and they keep going back to it, building anticipation, because at some point he's going to get what he wants out of Austin and be able to put that sharpshooter on. But that's one small part of the story here, and it's really, really well done.
The low blow is the great equalizer. Down goes Bret, and Steve is trying to pick himself up. Of course, he's got a wheel out, and he's losing blood. And what a great visual. What a great story.
Steve is selling like, he's like this is an Academy Award performance when it comes to Steve selling here.
There it is, too. You saw Bret Hart take that sternum first. Irish whip into the corner. Man, what a great visual this is, too, with Austin stomping Bret down in the corner. And I believe he takes a little break to flip him off and one last stomp. And as a kid, that's swagger right there.
Steve is so good. So much fun to watch him still. I wish we had a character like Steve Austin. And I'm talking about the style of wrestling. And maybe we do, and I'm just not aware of it. But man, and Bret too, just basic good storytelling, and their timing. Everything they're doing is timed so well. The match isn't rushed. It's not dragging. There's emotion and drama between every move. It's just so good. I mean, at this point, I'd say flawless.
Yeah.
If a match can be flawless, this might be it.
So this is regarded as being one of the best matches in WWE history. It's always been my favorite match, certainly my favorite WrestleMania match, and now the first one going into the WWE Hall of Fame. And again, no titles, no belts, not the main event, not going on last, and in a down time too, which I think is interesting because by all accounts, this is, not this hugely successful WrestleMania that most of them have been. Hell, WCW's uncensored effort beat this show, but this match, man, it lives on. It's immortalized.
Yeah, and Uncensored was a relatively new pay-per-view didn't have a lot of following, and it wasn't one of our tent pole events, as they like to say in the entertainment industry. It was added on as just another way to make a couple bucks in the month of March, more than anything else. It was a cash flow decision, and still outperformed WrestleMania. I didn't even know that until we sat down and talked about it. That's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, there's only 9,200 people in North Charleston, South Carolina. Look at this. There's the visual right there.
Wow.
Steve Austin trying to push his way out of the sharpshooter, and you see the blood streaming down his face. It looks like he's getting a little woozy here, Eric.
Selling his ass off.
And you see my Ken Shamrock saying, "Steve, do you quit? You got to answer me. If you don't answer me, I'm going to stop the fight." He's pushing up, and look at this iconic camera shot coming here, Eric.
Ken's actually doing a good job refereeing this match, by the way. He doesn't look like a wrestler that's stepping in as a ref. Sometimes when you bring somebody in to act as the referee who's not really a referee, it's just awkward and cumbersome. Shamrock's doing a great job of staying out of the shot, unless it's important that he's in the shot. staying out of the way, which is sometimes hard to do. I used to
Man,
hate being a referee. I hated being a referee. I would rather get power bombed and thrown off a stage than be a referee. It was always intimidating to me.
Austin is not responding to Ken Shamrock here, and he's going to call for the bell. That's it. Steve Austin has lost the match. Bret Hart is your winner because Steve Austin was unable to answer the referee, Ken Shamrock. And you see Ken raising Bret's hands there. Bret Hart's your winner, and this is now the match immortalized as the first match going into the WWE Hall of Fame. Of course, the story isn't quite over. We've still got a little bit of storytelling left in the match, but again, I think it's interesting. No titles, not the main event, but also, too, what you didn't see, no crazy high spots, no Canadian destroyers, no 450s, nobody diving off the balcony. Yes, we used a chair. Yes, we used a bell. But the finish wasn't somebody kicking out of 15 different, finishers. It was a prolonged submission hold, the Scorpion Deathlock, the sharpshooter. And the story was, can he break the hold that no one's been able to break? Oh my God, he broke it. No, he didn't. He just knocked him down. It's still applied, and he's passed out from the pain and the loss of blood. Storytelling, Eric, that's what did it, right?
That's what did it. It would have been interesting if they would have had, medical staff come to the ring here and check on Steve. It would have made it just a little bit more believable.
We're not done. Keep watching. You see,
All right. Looks, we got a few more minutes left.
Bret Hart now trying to attack the legs of Steve Austin. Ken Shamrock stopped him once. He's back at it again. Shamrock's going to pick him up and suplex him over. Big pop from the crowd. So now we firmly established that Shamrock is a babyface. He was the impartial referee who was a good guy who was going to call it down the middle. And after Bret won the match, within the confines of the match, fair and square, he goes back for more. Ken won't allow it. So it's made clear now that our heel is being protected by a babyface, and our heel lost the match, but by God, he didn't submit. He didn't quit. He had too much heart for that. And our Canadian hero, well, damn it, that's not very hero-esque to attack a guy after the match. So there's your double turn.
Maybe the decision, hopefully the decision was made because you pointed out so clearly and correctly in the beginning, no stakes, no title. Well, there were stakes, obviously, but no title, not even the main event. But if the decision by WWE in terms of acknowledging, WrestleMania matches in the Hall of Fame is the quality of the work in the ring, as opposed to a title defense or winning a title, I'm all for it because we don't see enough of really, really good wrestling anymore along these lines with the kind of psychology and the time, because television has changed quite a bit. Matches are shorter a lot of the times, especially on television. So to see a match like this with two guys who are masters at psychology and execution, really refreshing. Really enjoy seeing it.
So I wanted you to see that Mike Chioda came down to check on Stone Cold Steve Austin, and for his troubles, he got a boot to the gut and a stunner, and he's hurt. He lost. He's battered. He's bloody, but he didn't quit, and he's limping on his own to the backstage area. I want to make a parallel here, Eric, that you may not even realize. But before I do, I just want to give you some more context to how legendary this match is. As a matter of fact, while we've been recording this morning, on April the 4th, WWE just pushed out this email to their entire database. They're now selling the Austin 316 Blood from a Stone t-shirt. This was an iconic t-shirt they sold years ago, and they're bringing it back to celebrate this anniversary of this match.
They are printing money, Conrad. They are printing money. It should be illegal, the amount of cash that they're creating. It's amazing. Good for them.
So I wanted to make this correlation with you because I don't think that you maybe have put this together, and I don't know that some of our listeners haven't necessarily put this together. But when you think about the watershed moment, the seminal moment that mattered more than any other in WCW history, myself and others would probably say it's Hulk Hogan turning heel. Hulk Hogan turning heel at Bash at the Beach 1996 has been immortalized forever and ever because what came after that changed the business with the NWO. Do you agree with that, Eric?
Changed everybody's business, WWE's and ours.
The reason that this match is the first match being put into the Hall of Fame is because in the other direction, it was this moment that changed the WWF forever. Don't take my word for it. Ask Stone Cold Steve Austin, who had this framed and sent this to Bret Hart years ago, and this now hangs in Bret's bar. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner, that is indeed the blade he used that night at WrestleMania 13, and there's a little plaque that indicates this. But Bret autographed this giant 16 by 20 or Steve autographed this giant 16 by 20 for Bret that said, "Bret, thank you for the match of a lifetime. This was the match that made Stone Cold. It was always a pleasure to work with you, your friend, Steve Austin." You see, going into this match, Steve Austin was a heel. Coming out of it, he's a baby face, and he's on his way to becoming the WrestleMania main event the following year and the biggest star in the history of the industry. So if the biggest moment in WCW history was Hulk Hogan turning heel because it changed WCW and the industry, I think the WWE and Steve Austin might argue that it could have been this for Stone Cold in the WWF.
I would agree. I was thinking that as Steve was making his way after he dumped Kyoto and was making his way back. The camera, we saw him from behind as he was, limping out and damn near falling down on his way backstage. It was so believable. I thought of John Wayne. That's in my mind. I'm watching that. I go, man, that is John Wayne right there. And it worked. And you know what else is interesting? And I want to say this without being critical. For so long, when I was active in the business, especially when things were really getting hot, everybody was afraid to lose a match. Like, it was so difficult sometimes, not with everybody, but with so many people, to get them to understand that there is a way to lose a match and actually get yourself more over than you would get if you won the match. And I think this was a perfect example. I don't think there's a better example. This might be a case study of how you can, to your point, in terms of this match launching, on Steve's point, so if Steve Austin believes this was the match that launched Stone Cold Steve Austin, then, I think we all pretty much would have to agree with that. If anybody would know, Steve would know. But to be able to lose a match and get yourself more over and set yourself up for an amazing run, I would imagine down in NXT in Orlando, there's a lot of young talent that are shown this match to illustrate why winning isn't always everything, and sometimes it's less than. This was awesome. Really, really good choice for the very first match to be acknowledged at WrestleMania. Really good choice, and I'd hate to have to try to follow that one.
Nobody could, and nobody will, because this is the very first match to go into the WWE Hall of Fame. Now, this is going to start the big debate, of course, once we see these guys celebrate going into the Hall of Fame this weekend. Everybody's going to start the discussion, Eric. What's going in next year? Is there another WrestleMania match that you think, hey, this is probably going to be near the top of the list? Is it going to be Shawn and Razor at WrestleMania 10? Will it be Ricky Steamboat and Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3? Could you see it being Shawn and The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25 next year? What do you think?
I think it's going to be Shawn and Razor in a ladder match, because that ladder match was so good. It's being emulated today. I mean, people are still trying to this day to bring that level of magic that Shawn and Scott were able to bring to that match. If I had to bet, I'd put my money on that.
Well, we'll see what happens. Of course, it's WrestleMania week. The world is watching, and Eric and I are going to be discussing it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, turn on your notifications bell. You don't want to miss us the next time we're live. And you won't, as long as you do both of those things. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell, and you are good to go. Eric, I never know what to expect when we sit down and click record, but this was a lot of fun, man. And I can't wait for WrestleMania to be here. It's coming sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys chose this. I didn't really have any expectations going into watching this, but I'm really, really grateful that we did, because this was about as classic of a match as I've seen in a long time. And I appreciate the opportunity to see it with you guys.
And we'll see you sooner rather than later right here on 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff.
Jacob Stimmel. I'm from Bulls Gap, Tennessee. I was looking for a house, and Jason, when I talked to him, it seemed like he knew a lot about what he was talking about, and he was a big help with anything I ever needed. It was my first time buying a house, so I didn't know what I was getting into. It was a good experience. I closed actually a week earlier than planned. Anytime I needed help with anything or had any questions, he'd answer right away and help me learn a lot too. I would gladly recommend anybody. Y'all are a big help, and if I ever go to buy a house again, I'd go with y'all again. My name is Jacob Stimmel, and I got into my first home with the team at SaveItConrad.com.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender. SaveWithConrad.com.